Hello everyone, welcome to another show from Investing with the Difference. So we are going to cover some of the latest news on EOS and what is happening, and we are going to talk about voting. It's very critical that all of you vote, and I will tell you the reasons what's going on. So first of all, in last 12 hours, if you have not followed a lot of news, a lot of FUD around EOS, so the biggest thing which happened is that there has been an account which was frozen by ECAF, and one of the block producers, which is EOS Store, has let the transaction go through for one of those accounts. And what happened is around 3570 EOS were stolen. Again, means we need to be very careful on following the FUD here. When you say that 3570 were stolen, these were basically transferred out from a supposedly hacked account. Now, in any other blockchain, this was anyway gone for all the accounts. This is only one account which was supposed to be hacked, and this communication from ECAF was not uh, followed by one block producer. Now, and they were producing the block at that time. The only way they can block it, so people are asking how can it happen with one block producer, because the only way it can happen is when when your block producer is producing block and he is blacklisting that particular account. There is no way the other block producer can verify in the code, and that was one of the misses, I think, in this whole implementation of this ECAF order. So whether you agree with ECAF order or not, so let me again go back and say what happened here. So now this is the statement coming from EOS Store themselves on Reddit, and they are claiming that there was an issue with updating the list because there were multiple lists, and of course you know that there were multiple lists, and we have been not been very happy with how ECAF is working. It's early days in EOS, and there is means I myself I have been pushing for on-chain governance, I would say, rather than doing these emails and these notifications. We also highlighted some fake orders, and that's exactly what EOS Store is talking about. But irrespective of that, being a top 21 block producer, it is a very highly negligent of them to let this happen. So now I would say that voters should have a right to take their votes back and remove them. Unfortunately, as you can see, they are still in top 11. Actually, they are number 11 right now, sorry. So they are in top 21. And in fact, they are getting more and more votes ever since this happened in last 12 hours. And some of them have been tracked to some big whales. So it is still a whales dominated play. I was checking another tool, I think EOS Park or something, and there's only 27% votes have come in. And as we know, some of these like ZBO EOS, which is an exchange, we know that they have made huge votes from their wallets. Nobody knows if they took permission from the people who own these tokens, because they are an exchange. Similarly, Bitfinex, even though they are very, very transparent, they are using proxy voting only for people who allow them to vote. But they are being them at number one. It's kind of questionable whether this is really as per voters' wishes, or they really support Bitfinex because they have an account on Bitfinex. So we don't know yet how this whole thing is working. And the reason is because most of us who are feeling insecure because you don't want to risk your private keys, we are not voting. So this is something which has to be fixed. It is still early days, but I would say voting is becoming more and more critical for all of us. And then another example is EOS Fly to Mars. They are again back in top 21, and they for a long, long time nobody knew them. We still don't know what exactly this team is. Their website is up and running. They're claiming to be investors and developers, and they have not contributed anything to the community, and still they are in top 21. So these are some of the things which we need to really look at and start voting. Now, what is happening overall? Let's go back and talk about this tokens which were stolen. So beyond what happened, so they are actually EOS Store at least coming back and saying that if there is a consensus reached, they will be taking the responsibility of this loss and they may return it or whatever. But this is becoming a lot of a debate on Telegram channels and everything. So let me show you another thing which is here, like where Dan Leriman is kind of pitching in, and he's talking about there is no he's not happy with ECAF. Let me tell you very simply, it's going pretty bad for the press around EOS is pretty bad the way ECAF has been operating. Even though Block.one does not want to interfere, Dan Leriman, as a community member, he's pitching in. And one of the key things he said, which I liked, is very, very important thing. He said that we need to limit scope of arbitration governance to deciding what the smart contract code should have been in first place versus how to punish people, seize assets, etc. And this is a great statement. We hope that people listen to him. And he's also suggesting a change in constitution. So if you go further, he's talking about adding some additional constitution changes, which will make sure that these kind of things don't happen. And it is purely a code driven and smart contract driven arbitrations. Not really arbitration will still happen in a human manner, but the implementation of the arbitration, the implementation of the ECAF order should be a smart contract, and that should go on chain. So there is a lot of inputs coming in from him today morning. He's still very active, and then he's also talking about removing vote buying restriction. Means ultimately it's okay, right? Means if you can really demonstrate that you own those tokens, you should be able to vote because you're invested in the project, and that's what is called proof of stake. Because you have a stake, you're giving your voting right to the block producers, and you're giving the vote to a block producer who is acting on your behalf, and you have a stake in it. So this is something which is very important. And he gave an example of how the EOS token contract performed as defined, and no arbitrator can take it back because this is a contract in a token. Like when you get a EOS token, when you get an airdrop through EOS token contract, nobody can take it back because this is something which you are getting directly from the system contract. It is defined in the code, and that is what he is pushing for. So again, I would say this is important. I would say this is going to, we will go through this and hopefully it will improve as we go along. But at this moment, the biggest challenge is, again, I will go back to the voting. So people have to vote. They have to go and bring in their voting power into play. We cannot allow some of these questionable block producers to keep running in the top 21, and that is going to be harm the community. And second thing is, of course, we have to support any changes in constitution which bring it more accountability, more code-based execution, and arbitration has to bring on chain. The ECAF has to come on chain. The communication should come on chain. So those are the kind of things I would say that will fix these problems. In short term, I think yes, there are challenges, and even though EOS Store is claiming that yes, they made a mistake and they are willing to compensate, I think they deserve to be brought down at this moment till they clarify how they are the only one who missed this order from ECAF. So whether you agree with ECAF or not, if it has to work, it has to work in the right spirit of how ECAF orders are being defined, and if all the block producers are agreeing to it or not. So otherwise, I think we just cancel ECAF. Like there is no need for it. Of course, everybody knows that this is something which is how the governance will be run in EOS. So I would say there has to be a fix for this. I'm sure there's a lot of FUD going on about EOS right now. People are going to question things, and these are teething pains. Now, coming back to what is really critical is we still have a performing blockchain. We have 2.8 million blocks running. If you are already making transfers, if you have done wallet transfers, you know how quickly this happens. And again, if you go back to Dan Larimer's updates, he's talking about updating a wallet, creating a new wallet which will allow you to vote from hardware wallets and allowing you all those features. So I think that is something which is going to change the way we work. In the meantime, if you want, as I did in our live video, we are taking proxy votes. A lot of people are now creating proxy pools for people they trust. So we ourselves, I think we are in for selecting good block producer. As I said, we are going to keep voting in investing with the difference group. So do consider if you want to give us the proxy vote. If you are not sure whom to vote for, we can help you with that. And a lot of people have requested it, and they are assigning proxy to us. So we have opened that up. Let us know if you have any questions about it. But again, I would say that consider voting, consider using Greymouse tool, which is pretty safe now. There's a lot of discussions which are going around it, what is the best wallet to use in the short term. I would say if your PC is secure, you can use Greymouse wallet. Otherwise, I think you will have to wait for hardware wallets to come on. So that's all from now. We have a couple of other updates that is we already talked about in our previous videos. So Karma airdrop is happening soon on July 1st. We have a TDM which is coming shortly. These are the airdrops which are coming very shortly on EOS. We already had a lot of airdrops which happened. EOS ad, again, this was kind of a not sure what kind of apps they are building and so on, but they were the first airdrop which happened. And this is something which is going around. So now this was their. So one thing I wanted to highlight on airdrops is that they have this memory requirement which is causing, like, airdrops is going to create a lot of demand for memory, because we have consistently observed that EOS ad, which was the first airdrop, they had to buy 20 megabyte of RAM and they used it. Then let us look at other EOS DAC tokens, and they had very similar requirements. So it looks like on the Genesis snapshot, if you're doing an airdrop, you have to use 20 megabyte of RAM. So that also is continuously increasing demand for RAM. So if you see here, this is the same thing for your stack tokens. They bought more than that. So I'm assuming that, if I understand it correctly, that these tokens have to really be created on the, and you have to take some space because you are creating accounts for these tokens on the blockchain, and that is the kind of memory it needs to provide it to everybody. So I think this is creating this RAM price to go up. It's already gone up to 0.056 EOS per KB. And when we started tracking RAM, I think we showed you how to buy RAM. It was at 0.018, which is like almost more than 200% gain if you invested in RAM. Again, as I said, if you don't understand it, don't really get into it, because these prices will be volatile once block producers start upgrading the RAM. But overall, the demand for RAM will continuously increase. So in long term, I think buying some RAM is not a bad idea. So these are some of the things we wanted to talk about, and I think IQ airdrop is coming very soon, which is the biggest one, and we hear that Binance is going to soon open up withdrawal and deposits. So we will keep you updated as those things happen. And thanks for joining once again. Subscribe to our channel and do press like if you like the video and the updates from Investing with the Difference. Thank you. Bye bye.